So leaky gut is one of those functional conditions that often indicates that there is a lot of inflammation present in the body. Now, it's really common for it to present with conditions such as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. However, you don't have to have these conditions to have leaky gut. And when these diseases aren't present, leaky gut often presents as really vague and intermittent symptoms. So let's dive into some of the signs that might be present. Leaky gut is also known as intestinal permeability, and it often involves things escaping from the GI tract and entering into systemic circulation, which is never a great thing. One of the signs that may be present is that you are having a lot of abdominal issues. So this could be things like gas and bloating, it could be alternating diarrhea or constipation. You could be diagnosed with something such as irritable bowel syndrome or something like SIBO, small intestinal bowel overgrowth. So there can be a lot of overlap in all of these conditions, and a lot of them are kind of origin unknown. But the common theme is that you're either having gas and bloating, especially with foods that normally don't give you a problem. You could be having, diarrhea or constipation in response to these foods. And overall, you may be having trouble digesting or feel like your digestive system is really sluggish. And a lot of times when you present to your primary care physician, they may just diagnose you with IBS and send you out the door, maybe or maybe not with a medication, which in the long run doesn't really help the symptoms or the root cause. Another condition you will often see are things like skin rashes. So this can often present as things like eczema. It can present with contact dermatitis. It may even flare up your psoriasis or new onset psoriasis. Now, this is often because the immune system is starting to get involved. I have a great example of this in my own life. When I was going through my medical residency, my entire face erupted into a giant flare of eczema. You can check out this video up here if you want to learn more about my experience and kind of what I went through and how I corrected that. But the immune system is now kind of getting involved because a huge portion of our immune system is actually located in our gut. And when we have things like leaky gut, because those particles are escaping out into circulation, our body's immune system is now on high alert, trying to track down the offenders or what your body has tagged as foreign invaders. And this causes your immune system to really kind of go out of whack. A lot of times you will often also see new onset type of autoimmune conditions or flares of existing autoimmune conditions. So things like psoriatic arthritis, things like lupus, things like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, all can really flare or can often have that kind of chicken and egg sort of scenario with these conditions and the leaky gut. So they often go hand in hand and are quite common to present together. Another sign with the immune system is that you may notice that you're often getting sick quite often. You're feeling very run down. You seem to catch every single bug that goes around and you can't really seem to kind of get over, or it takes you a long time to get over sicknesses. This is again another response that your immune system is kind of in overdrive and you may be on the end where your immune system can't really start to keep up. And because of this, oftentimes you'll often see a lot of fatigue, especially chronically fatigued, no matter how much sleep you get, no matter what you're eating, no matter, how well you're paying attention to your nutrition, you just don't have the energy. And what goes along with that is another sign is often difficulties with memory, concentration, or just feeling like you're in a fog and you can't think. So things like brain fog. Now, this might be occurring because there is also a connection between the gut and the brain. A lot of times when there is leaky gut, we will have a disruption in our microbiome and our overall balance of our flora. And this can interrupt the signaling between our brain and our gut. And when this happens, we often see issues with cognition. So again, that slow thinking, poor memory, just feeling like you're in a fog. Sometimes you just can't get the right words out, or you can't think of the right word, or you just don't feel on top of your game mentally like you usually do. Another pattern or another symptom that I often see when dealing with leaky gut is joint and muscle pain, or just overall increases in just random aches and pains. Now, again, this comes back to that there's generally a lot of inflammation because you've got these particles kind of escaping out into systemic circulation and your body is trying to deal with them. And a lot of times the way your body deals with them is having, again, this immune response, but that often produces things like inflammatory cytokines that can cause kind of random aches and pains. So again, this could be another sign that you may be having leaky gut. Now, you might be asking, well, what the heck even causes leaky gut? Well, there are actually a variety of causes. I mentioned earlier, it could be from something like irritable bowel disease, so ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. We have been vastly studied in having increasing intestinal permeability, but there are often other causes. So things like over-the-counter NSAIDs can irritate or disturb your gut lining. Alcohol or other dietary choices, if you are having a lot of food sensitivities or food intolerances or food allergies, that can also disrupt the gut lining and that mucous membrane. Things like bacterial infections and antibiotics can disrupt this. Of course, again, stress is another big one. Again, I'll share my experience with you about being very stressed out during my residency and having my face literally explode, and I was super inflamed. And at that time, my diet was also crap. So I'm a great example of stress leading to a leaky gut and having other sorts of consequences like skin rashes. Other causes are things like poor sleep and disruption of your circadian rhythm. And another cause you might not be aware of are things like concussion. We're discovering more and more about the blood-brain barrier and what we think can influence the permeability of that barrier, and concussion or injuries to the brain can often cause a disturbance in that. And because of that gut-brain correlation, you can often see leaky gut start to happen as a consequence of things like a concussion. So you might be thinking now, well, crap, how do I diagnose leaky gut? How do I know if I have it? A lot of practitioners will just treat based on symptoms. You can also order different types of blood tests. You can look at lipopolysaccharides. You can look at molecules like zonulin or occludin. There are a variety of functional medicine tests. You can do different stool testing or blood testing to look for these different particles, or to look for disruption in the microbiome or increase in things like secretory IgA or inflammation in the stool sample. So there's lots of different ways to go about this. You should definitely talk with your functional medicine practitioner. This is definitely something that I work a lot with inside of my coaching program, the Better Health Blueprint. I find a lot of times that addressing the gut, addressing your nutrition has so many effects on other symptoms. So things like hormones, things like your sleep, you need to be checking in with your gut health. So if you have questions about that or want to learn how to work with me, you can click on the link down in the description box and you can learn more about my coaching program, the Better Health Blueprint. Now, if you want to learn more about how to heal a leaky gut, then I recommend you go ahead and click on this video. And if you liked this one, then I'm going to ask you to go ahead and give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who you think might benefit. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.